Welcome back to ROMP, everybody. Let's walk away from our usual spot for a minute here and chat for a bit. I had a hard time deciding when I wanted to do a video on a Titan. I was thinking, should I build up my video library a bit more before trying to tackle something so large? But then I kept thinking about it and decided, you know what? There's no time like the present. I am the proud owner of three Titan class Transformers. So look, if I really mess this one up, maybe I'll get it right when I inevitably do a Metroplex double feature. But today, it is time to show off the largest bot in my collection, and that is by both size and weight. Transformers Generations Earthrise Scorponok. When I first heard that they were finally producing a Titan class figure of this behemoth, I had just finished watching the series that he's from, the 1987 G1 sequel series, The Headmasters. And for me, Scorponok was a real breakout character in that show. Needless to say, I had really high hopes for the figure that was now on its way. And when he was released, I discovered that he was... You know what? We're actually going to leave the impressions as a surprise. I don't want to spend too long talking about the whole figure today, because I'm actually going to be doing this episode in two parts. The second part, we're going to be taking a more in-depth look at the whole robot, but for today, we're actually going to be taking a look at just part of him. That's because Big Scorpo here is a headmaster, which means that his noggin comes off and is actually itself a transformer named Lord Zarak. Getting right into it then, I guess we can call this big sullen head Zarak's alternate mode. Here he is alongside some other headmasters, who all also featured in the Headmasters show. Jeez, look how tiny they all are compared to his gigantic dome. Scorponok has had a few head iterations over the years. Check out his G1 head. It's got this hilariously tiny face and this giant double bucket helmet. Even though his 1986 G1 toy was bigger than most others in the line, the Headmaster was still the same size as the other Headmaster toys to ensure that they were all interchangeable with each other. The result is that he wound up with a medically prescribed case of teeny tiny face. Back to the feature, Earthrise Scorponok's head opts for a more modern look for the face. Kinda based off the Rebirth cartoon, kinda based off the IDW Comics version. It's got all the core familiar features, save for that weird windshield that he occasionally gets. On the front, we got his giant red visor, which is actually hiding a pair of eyes that you don't see in either of the head's modes, but do see during transformation. I love that. That's like a fun storytelling component to the transformation. Now, I do wish his horns were a bit more large and dramatic. I like my Scorponoks with gigantic, enormous horns, like Armada Megatron style. So if I could change one thing about this big Olmec looking ass head, it would be the horns. They do pop off on a 5mm port though, so you could reasonably stuff any compatible weapon in there if you wanted. Bust out a weaponizer and build something stupid. Who gives a shit? The whole thing is slathered in techie detail that sorta gets lost at the scale that the Titan is presenting, but looks really good up close and in hand. The last thing to comment on is it's a little slim. I originally expected his head to be a bit more of a square shape, but it looks really proportional, I guess, so no harm done. I think that slimness is the result of this dude's transformation. Let's get that going right now. For essentially just turning into a stylized cube, Zarak actually has a pretty sweet transformation. The major motions are flipping his legs down to open him up, and moving his shoulders up on these double hinges. Unravel his arms, clean up the minutia a little bit, and there you go, the Nebulan criminal himself, Lord Zarak. There's been quite a few iterations of Scorponok over the years, and that subsequently means that there's been just as many Zaraks. This iteration lifts its look directly from the Japanese Headmasters cartoon. I'm pretty stoked about that. Given the fact that this dude is sort of an accessory to Scorponok, it's incredibly impressive how fully featured he feels within himself. He feels just as good as any other single-packed deluxe that came out alongside him. Color work appears kinda limited at first, but look, if you ask me, it's doing everything that it needs to. His bone white chest and rich magenta limbs line up exactly with his G1 toy and cartoon color scheme. Maybe it just feels a bit lackluster since the scale is much larger than the original. Coming back to that chest again, I love the accuracy of the detail here. But due to the torso containing the bulk of the arms in head mode, the body winds up a bit, deceptive. Zarak wasn't given the gift of robotic flanks. It's hidden at most angles, but others, it kinda looks like he's wearing a robotic poncho over top of a broom handle. To counter the chest though, the arms actually gain some benefits because of the transformation. Since they need to fold up super tight, he's left with some really lovely double-jointed elbows. No wrist movement at the end though, except for inwards. The horn plates on the sides of his arms are, well, the exact same as the sides of the head. You know what that means, 5mm ports, baby! Keeping it self-contained though, the horns can become some hand weapons. You can have half of it in each hand, or you can finagle both into the same hand to give him this weird, kinda claw-looking weapon. It's something. When you're done, they have some extra tabs to store more directly onto his back, if that's what you prefer. Oh, and just to check them off the list, the legs are good. Ankle joints, universal hips, knees that go both ways, legs are good. Zarak has a stern, if a little bit plain, expression decorating his big, silver face. That silver was actually a very lovely surprise. This dude was originally revealed with a beige, unpainted face, so seeing it picked out in silver to, yet again, match the source material was awesome. Okay, this next part. How do I even begin to explain this to somebody who might not follow Transformers? Okay, let's give this a go. So, okay, you know how Lord Zarak here is the headmaster to Scorponok? Well, it, keeps going. Zarak's head is also a headmaster, though this does not line up with fiction. In the cartoon, Scorponok only ever had the one headmaster. This release was given another headmaster, so it was more in line with the previously released Fortress Maximus, who was the main protagonist who fought against Scorponok in the headmaster's cartoon. See, Fortress Maximus is a double headmaster in the fiction, so his toy was released as a double headmaster. To keep the contemporary releases of both of these guys comparable, Scorpo gets a bonus headmaster this week. Kinda cool. The tiny headmaster himself is very much a gimmick figure. You know, he's got shoulders, he can look around a little, he can sit down and like he's trying to figure out why he exists, but it's incredibly simple otherwise. As far as detail goes, it's based off of the American Headmaster's debut, the 1987 G1 episode, The Rebirth. It's pretty neat how we got both the American and Japanese iterations of Zarak contained within the same figure. It's pretty obvious that there was a lot of attention put into getting this guy right, which, considering this is the first ever release of Zarak that is bigger than a mini-con, I'm pretty pumped that we're seeing the effort. And that's all. Things start to get real interesting when you get Lord Z back into his head mode and drop him onto Scorponok, but that's going to all be discussed in next week's episode. Zarak is a very pleasant surprise in the Titan Scorponok package. While the whole Transtector, which is what you call a non-sentient body for a headmaster, is the feature presentation, I'm very grateful that Hashtag didn't take that as an excuse to under-deliver on a potentially very limited headmaster. You know, like, I'm glad we didn't just get this guy upscaled 1000%. Lord Zarak remains a formidable figure in anyone's collection. It's just too bad that if you own one, you probably won't actually see him most of the time, considering he is the head of operations and takes his job very seriously. I'll see y'all next week when we cover the man, the myth, the super weapon, Scorponok. Later, gang. Hey everybody, Dylan here. Here's a little behind the scenes look. This is immediately after the shot where I flicked Zarak's headmaster somewhere over here. It's just gone. I guess I'm going to be spending the next, it's probably under the couch, but I guess I'm going to be spending the next, 15-20 minutes looking for that, so that's pretty cool. Yeah. See you guys next week.